All right, with us now is Senator Tim Kaine, a Democrat from Virginia. Senator, good morning to you. I know you are waking up to this like so many Americans this morning. What is your reaction to the scale of this attack by Israel?
Well, John, I'm an armed services member and father of a member of the military and a Virginian, a very pro-military state. My sole focus now is I'm going to do everything I can to keep the United States from getting involved in another war in the Middle East, especially a prolonged forever war. 20 years of two wars in the Middle East should have taught us something. I was pleased when the statement of Secretary Rubio came out last night that the U.S. was not involved in this. I was very surprised that Israel launched this strike 3 days before the U.S. was to have a diplomatic discussion with Iran about their nuclear program. That discussion might have gone well, might have gone bad, but to launch a military attack before a diplomatic discussion, I was surprised and disappointed in that. But I'm not a Knesset member. I'm not a member of the Israeli government or the Iranian government. I'm a U.S. Senator, and I'm going to do everything I can to keep the United States from getting involved in another war in the Middle East. That's my sole focus right now.
How much control do you think President Trump has over this situation?
Sadly, little. I think he's trying to exercise control. He has been urging Prime Minister Netanyahu to find a ceasefire and hostage release deal in Gaza. That makes American troops in the region safer. Thus far, the Prime Minister has not really been willing to listen to him. The President has been urging Prime Minister Netanyahu to give diplomacy a chance. Let the U.S. and Iran have these discussions. And I think the White House was taken aback and disappointed when the Prime Minister decided to go ahead and launch this massive attack a couple of days before a diplomatic discussion, all but guaranteeing that that discussion would be canceled. And we've heard from the Iranian side, at least so far, that they don't intend now to have the diplomatic discussion on Sunday. If you make diplomacy impossible in a situation like this, you raise the risk of unnecessary war. And again, I'm not a member of the Israeli government. They're going to make the decision they think is best for their country. But I know what's best for the United States. No more engagement of the U.S. military in endless wars in the Middle East. That would be a grievous, grievous mistake and would suggest that we didn't learn anything from 20 years of losing lives and losing our national treasure and reputation. So that's going to be my goal going forward.
Do you think the risk of U.S. involvement in what you call a forever war is bigger this morning than it was yesterday?
Absolutely. I'm very, very concerned about it, and my staff and I are talking about what we can do to make sure that there is not a kind of casual escalation of U.S. involvement. And we need to kind of explore how to do that. But I do believe the risk of U.S. deeper involvement in another war in the Middle East is dramatically higher today than it was yesterday.
Do you think Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu would have launched this without some kind of green light, tacit or otherwise, from President Trump?
Yes. Yeah. The president and the team, by every indication I have, the administration's team, was really begging the prime minister not to do this until the diplomatic discussions were done. Again, diplomacy may not work. Discussions may not lead to a productive outcome. But why torch diplomacy before it's been allowed to succeed? I think we learned at our peril. We had a diplomatic deal with Iran that was controlling their nuclear enrichment and that subjected them to the most searching inspection regime in the world. I think President Trump made a huge mistake in tearing that up and giving Iran the green light to more and more enrichment. We're living through that now, but it's never too late to look for diplomatic options. And I praise the Trump administration for doing it. Those discussions Sunday were going to be very high stakes. I'm frankly shocked that the Israeli prime minister would decide that he couldn't wait 3 or 4 days and he wanted to torch diplomacy before it occurred.
Very quickly, what's your assessment of Iran's capabilities this morning compared to what they were 24 hours ago?
Weakened, certainly weakened, and that's have significant capacity. And I have friends in Israel, and I'm praying for them. friends in the region, praying for them. It is impossible to conceive that after an attack of this kind, Iran will not try to respond. They will. The history demonstrates that they will at a time and manner of their choosing. And so I'm praying for my friends in the region that they're safe. But I especially want to make sure U.S. troops and U.S. citizens in the region are safe.
And before I let you go, Senator, your colleague, Senator Padilla from California, was detained and handcuffed at an event yesterday with Secretary Kristi Noem. Your reaction to that, what kind of message do you think that sends?
It was one of the most outrageous things I've ever seen in 67 years on the planet, John. LA City Council member, he attended a meeting at the federal office building. He walked into a public press conference, and when the secretary said something about she was there to liberate Los Angeles from its government, he tried to ask a question. And he was manhandled, forced out of the room, tackled, and handcuffed. The First Amendment guarantees the right to all Americans. We can peacefully assemble and petition government for redress of grievances. That action yesterday and the Trump actions more generally in deploying the military into a situation where there's no need for them is an intent to suppress legitimate dissent against Trump policies. On the eve of Flag Day, tomorrow's Flag Day, many of us are going to be involved in events for Flag Day. We got to commit ourselves to the notion that Americans can gather and express dissenting views to policies of this or any administration that they don't care for. So long as those gatherings are peaceful, as was Alex Padilla's presence, we're not only allowed to do them, we're guaranteed the right to do them. Even if this administration wants to suppress dissent, we can't let that happen.
Senator Tim Kaine from Virginia, a lot going on, an eventful moment in our history. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.